It's time for the Texas Renaissance Festival. Over 400 artisans and craftspeople await you in their beautifully recreated 16th century village. Enjoy a worldwide menu featuring savory dishes, tasty sweets, and a variety of drinks. Revel in the finest musicians, entertainers, and nightly fireworks. Stay the weekend with their Stay and Play Pass. Open weekends and Thanksgiving Friday from October 11th through November 30th. Get tickets and more at texrenfest.com. Family merriment awaits. Huzzah! Located in Houston's Energy Corridor, the Village School is here to serve students from age 2 through 12th grade with private day school and boarding school options. They're ranked as one of the top 20 K-12 private schools in America by niche.com because their world-class teachers provide exceptional learning experiences with a STEAM American curriculum in an international community. Visit thevillageschool.com to learn more or register for their STEAM Day open house on November 13th. It's year 3 of the state takeover of the Houston Independent School District. The state-appointed Superintendent Mike Miles has touted dramatic gains in the school ratings with no F-rated schools. But he's also facing mounting pressure about transparency, teaching methods, and now school closures on the horizon. So today on CityCast Houston, we're talking with community members about what's ahead for parents and students this school year. And this episode of CityCast Houston is part of Education Week, brought to you by the Village School, where world-class teachers provide exceptional learning experiences. Learn more at thevillageschool.com. It's Wednesday, September 24th. I'm Raheel Ramzanali, and here's what Houston's talking about. Hey, welcome into the show. I've got Dani Hernandez, who is the elected chair of the Houston ISD Board of Education. How are you?
I'm doing well today. How are you? Thank you for having me on.
And I also have Liz Silva, who is the former PTO president and mother of 2 children who attend Crockett Elementary. Liz, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, y'all, we're going to talk about what's on your radar for this school year with HISD. And I want to kick things off with this. Superintendent Mike Miles made a big promise this month alongside Education Commissioner Mike Morath that by August 2027, HISD will only have A and B rated schools. That means over 60 campuses have to improve their rating. What do y'all think of this pledge, and what are the chances of Superintendent Miles making good on this promise? Dani, start with you.
Oh, that's a great question. I love that there are high expectations for every student and every campus in HISD. I think that having only A and B schools sets that bar high for all students. And I am excited to see if that actually turns out to be the case.
How about you, Liz?
My children attend a accountability score A school now, but I just wonder at what cost are these accountability ratings, are this, this growth being made at when students are losing libraries and are often just learning through slides and worksheets and less hands-on learning.
And you are a parent of 2 elementary school children at Crockett Elementary, and it's a new education system school, something that Mike Miles and his administration have implemented. How has teaching and learning changed at your child's school? Expand on that.
Well, so before my children's school turned to NES, it was always a B-rated school. I was happy with that. They did lots of hands-on learning, lots of project-based learning. They attended the GT Expo. The kids just had a lot of kinetic play. It's a fine arts magnet school, so a lot of what the children are learning in their magnet classes would link back and tie into the lesson. And now our children are kind of in a culture shock, especially last year when we first became NES, because we no longer had hands-on learning. We no longer had project-based learning. The timer starts at 8 a.m. and it goes to 4 p.m. And the instruction is primarily just PowerPoint slides with a worksheet that follows, and just a lot of demonstrations of learning, lots of paper. I actually have quite the large stack of worksheets that my son, who's in 4th grade now, brought home last year when he was in 3rd grade. And it is almost 2 feet tall of just worksheets.
Oh, wow.
So I think that, we had a style of learning that really worked for our students as far as teaching kids, meeting them where they are. And now our students are really just sitting still, looking at slides, taking quizzes over and over again all day.
Dani, are you hearing the same criticism from other parents?
I'm hearing a lot of the same criticism as well. We do want all of our schools to be A and B. That's a lofty goal, and we should hold all of our students to high expectations. However, we shouldn't let go of some of the basics of education, of teaching the whole child at the same time. I think that there's some progress in moving the data, but maybe we've gone backwards in some of the extracurriculars, and just like Liz was saying, the hands-on learning, project-based learning that really make school fun for kids and a place where they want to go to every day.
So when it comes to the curriculum, what are y'all looking for in terms of the curriculum and how kids are learning at these schools?
I mean, we have kindergartners at NES schools whose teachers aren't allowed to read them books anymore.
Oh, wow.
And it's wild to me that the foundation of school, kindergarten, where children are learning to read, where their teachers wouldn't be able to read them a book. And, they're also doing worksheets in the lower grades as well at NES schools. While I understand that the emphasis Miles and the administration currently have is to see growth fast, I think we could still see growth while also, like Dani said, holding on to the parts of school that make it fun and sustainable for students. Because I know my son, my third grader, used to just wake up every day so excited to go to school. And he came home crying his first day of school last year when we became NES, because he said they didn't do any kind of like get to know me, icebreaker things. They just immediately went into the worksheets. And he said it was just work. And every day at the end of the day, I'd ask, how was school today? And he would say the same as yesterday. So there was nothing exciting, nothing really like keeping him challenged, keeping him focused, keeping him, loving to learn like, he previously has shown every other year of school. So it's great to see growth, but is it worth students not wanting to continue to grow or loving the growth,
Dani, how do you deal with that? Because you are the chair of the elected board of trustees, which right now I understand that technically you don't have that much power, right, while the state is in charge. But do you bring these criticisms up to Superintendent Miles and communicate what parents are feeling?
The elected board doesn't have that much communication with Superintendent Miles. And one of the things that some of the elected board members have started is recording our questions over what is called progress monitoring, what's on the agenda for the board of managers, because there are lots of questions that are left unanswered. I think for teachers, for parents, and just the community in general, as someone who had voting power before and was able to ask questions and receive responses, I wonder what exactly is going on in the classroom. I have done some school visits, but some of the elected board is getting together monthly to voice our questions over some of the data that's coming out. We haven't necessarily received answers, but we are putting that out there for the community and for the board of managers to look at and review. And our hope is that they will ask those questions so that the community can also have answers to those questions.
Yeah, I mean, you're such an important voice for the community. And, one thing that is really going to change a lot of communities is the potential school closures. What do you want to see in terms of that process?
We know that HISD has lost, thousands of students. Every year our enrollment is declining. And so it's not viable financially to keep all the schools open. And I know school closures is a very touchy subject. A lot of people say, hey, we can't close any schools. But financially, HISD needs to, just like, regular families downsize when they're empty nesters. This is a very similar example. But there's been a lot of research done on how to effectively close down schools in order to bring the community into the vision that the district is trying to implement. There's steps that need to be taken and that can be taken by the administration in order to help the community understand why the schools are closing and what the benefit is for the students and the teachers and the community in general. So I think that communication is one of the biggest things that we want to see in terms of school closures, communication and transparency.
Mm-hmm.
So we hope that the administration, when they do decide to move forward with school closures, they do it in a way that has been proven to effectively bring the community along with the administration.
Yeah, that's going to be so important. And Superintendent Mike Miles has talked about this, where they're looking at each campus facility, how they're being utilized, or are they under capacity? Liz, as a parent in HISD, what would you like to know? Like, should there be big community meetings before this list is published?
Yeah, I mean, we know that school closures were already on the minds of Mr. Miles and this current administration whenever they placed the bond packet to the community with the co-locations, as they were calling it. So I would imagine we would see some of those schools maybe on the closure list. But the only difference is that a co-location versus a closure, there's processes and community input that has to take place before a school is closed. So at least in the sense of, since the bond failed, at least there will be those due processes that have to take place beforehand. But as far as the drop of enrollment goes, yeah, the school district has, and many school districts have been losing students and families every year. But it just seems to be like droves of families are leaving now while we're under the state takeover of HISD. So I know at my kids' school, we were on an upward trajectory as far as enrollment goes. We were about 580 students and growing. And then the year we turned NES, we dropped down to about 470 students, and we're sitting about maybe 450 now. And with that, you know, we lose a lot of things as well. So I can't help but to wonder, are these schools going to be the schools that are impacted the same way? Is it because of the takeover or because they're NES? And so many more families are choosing to go to a non-NES school, are choosing to homeschool, or even switch to charter or private schools.
Yeah, that's such a great point, right? Because student enrollment is dropping. And then you add on top of this, teacher turnover in HISD is not looking great. The Houston Chronicle reported that HISD's teacher turnover is almost double that of the state. And look, all over the country, so many schools are facing teacher shortages. What are you watching out for here, Dani?
I think teachers in the Houston area have options of where they can go and be a teacher at. So, you know, there's lots of surrounding school districts within a 20-minute drive for the most part. And teachers have options. So if they're not liking a culture, an environment where they're currently at, they have an option to change their school and their school district, because as you just mentioned, there's a shortage of teachers across the country. I think that ultimately we do need to focus on how students are performing, but we also know that the research says that effective principals, effective teachers that stay in a classroom for an extended amount of time, principals that stay at their campus for an extended amount of time, do help with student outcomes. And I think that is a very important aspect that right now we're lacking in HISD, because teacher turnover and principal turnover is so high.
As a parent, that is one of my big concerns with my fifth grader. She's in a different district, but same issues, like teacher turnover is so impactful. Liz, how do you feel about teacher turnover at this rate with HISD?
It's definitely concerning. I know, at least in the NES structure, Mike Miles, he doesn't really seem to have a concern with having uncertified teachers in the classroom, since the structure really is just slides and worksheets and a timers. Like, if you're doing it exactly as the way it's laid out as he wants you to do, like, it should be pretty simple for someone who has no classroom experience to do. But like Dani hit on, also having administrators and consistency on your campus as far as principals and assistant principals goes as well. We're on our third principal at Crockett since the takeover began.
Wow.
And our kids, you know, the administrators that my kids started school with are completely different now.
3 principals in 3 years.
Yeah, 3 principals. We're on our third one.
Yeah, third one. Why?
We had our first principal was asked to resign at the first year of the takeover. Our second principal chose to go back to the classroom actually in a different district outside of HISD. And we have a new principal this year who so far seems great. We're enjoying her, but it's hard to promise our kids how long she'll be here. And so where my kids don't know if next year they're going to have the same principal, or if their favorite teacher is going to be there. And those are hard questions to answer, to a 7 and 9-year-old, and just kind of trying to keep them excited for learning while also having so much inconsistencies and not really knowing how to answer those questions.
Wow. That's amazing to hear that number, right? And put it into perspective.
Right.
And this goes back to your point, Dani, of, having more consistent administration at the schools. The teachers want to stay there. That could be one way. Is there anything else that comes to mind? Like, how do you keep these highly effective teachers at these campuses and here in HISD?
I think less micromanagement, less spot checks. I think there's a lot of teachers who are high performing that feel micromanaged, that feel, I would say, harassed, at their job. They know what's good for kids. They know what produces great outcomes, but every day or, every week they're seeing these observations and there's people, micromanaging everything they're doing.
How about you, Dani? What do you think?
When I had voting power on the board, one of the things is that we were looking at the salaries for HISD compared to other districts, and just getting that set in place at the right time. Because one of the things that I'm hearing a lot right now is like a month and a half into the school district is like, hey, my salary changed all of a sudden, and I don't know why. And there's a lot of hesitation that I've heard from some of the HISD employees saying like, hey, what's going on? Why am I making, thousands of dollars less than I thought I was going to be making? So I think that salary definitely has something to do with it, as well as, having a good working environment. I mean, teachers are human beings. They need to be treated as human beings that have their own needs and wants at the same time, like having a good environment, a good culture in a campus, right? Culture is essential for any campus.
100%.
Yeah. And part of good culture, in my opinion, is good communication. And this is something I've asked Mike Miles about, when he's been on CityCast Houston, but I'm curious, Liz, how is the communication right now from the district with you as a parent?
Oh, I'm so glad that you asked. So I mean, I feel like we all know there's transparency issues. And, like Dani just said, it starts at the top and it goes all the way down to our students. And right now, I feel like there's this trickle down fear. But for, I guess, a very specific example from my kids' school is that on September 8th, our students arrived at school and there was no power. And on the entire campus didn't have power. So half of the building didn't have power, and it was not communicated to parents until 10 a.m. But at 10 a.m., it was communicated as a HVAC issue. But the water fountains didn't work. The bathrooms upstairs didn't work because there was no power. And so it was never really communicated to parents. So parents didn't find out that their kids were at school all day without AC and without power, just kind of, making the best of it as they could until 4 p.m. when they picked their kids up.
Wow.
And so rightfully so, a lot of parents were upset with that. And I know it's not that the principal at our kids' school didn't want to tell us, but at NES school, principals don't have the autonomy to draft and send a message to their community without getting prior approval from their executive director. So they can't just openly communicate with their community without having that message approved before they press send.
So still obvious gaps in communications.
Right. And it exactly. So it creates these gaps in communication. It creates these distrust between administrators and their communities. But there's so many ways to alleviate this, this tension. And all it requires is just letting a principal talk to their community in the way they know is best, and the way they know that works best for their communities. And I feel like that starts at the top and runs all the way to our kids. The transparency, the communication, there's a lot of work to be done there. I would love to see growth there. And if there was any way of having an accountability score for that, I would love to see that.
Yeah. fall in love with downtown Houston this season. Grab your blanket and your bingo card for Blanket Bingo, one of the city's favorite fall traditions. Or cozy up under the stars for outdoor movie nights featuring everything from Wicked to Guardians of the Galaxy, one of my personal favorites. Need to shake off those pumpkin spice lattes? Downtown Houston has free fitness in the park, yoga, hip-hop dance, and breathwork at Trebley and Market Square Park to keep you moving. And yes, even your four-legged friends get their own Yappy Hour Paw Tea. And mark your calendar, Dia de los Muertos takes over downtown with live music, art, kids' activities, and a glowing community ofrenda. Plus a family screening of Coco that will give you all the feels. The weather is nice, so it's time to make this season unforgettable. Plan your downtown adventure with your friends and family at downtownhouston.org. Downtown Houston, get energized and revived.
Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, maybe even a whole new life. So why not start that journey today? I'm CityCast CEO David Plotz, and I'm learning Spanish with Babbel. Babbel's conversation-based technique quickly teaches you useful words and phrases about the things you actually talk about in the real world. I've been practicing my Spanish with Babbel's AI conversation partner. I can choose my conversation topic and have a real-time dialogue. It's great at helping me think on my feet, and it's improving my pronunciation. Also, it's really easy to do anytime on my phone using Babbel's excellent mobile app. It's just one of the many fantastic Babbel tools for learning. Plus, Babbel has a real-time feedback, progress trackers, and handy visualizations, all of which make it really easy to stay motivated to learn. I want you to learn another language. So CityCast is teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/citycast. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/citycast. Spelled BABBEL.com/citycast. Babbel.com/citycast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
This show is brought to you by Wise, the app for international people using money around the globe. With Wise, you can send, spend, and receive up to 40 currencies with only a few simple taps and save up to 55% compared to major banks. Plus, Wise won't add hidden fees to your transfer. Whether you're buying souvenirs with pesos in Puerto Vallarta or sending euros to tip your Coliseum tour guide, you know you're getting a fair exchange rate with no extra markups. That's what makes Wise the fast, affordable way to use your money around the globe. Wise also offers 24/7 live support, and they run over 7 million daily checks to catch and prevent fraud, so you know your money is where it's supposed to be. Be smart. Join the 15 million customers who choose Wise. Download the Wise app today or visit wise.com. Terms and conditions apply. How about you, Dani? What do you think about the communication? Like, how is it right now? Has it gotten any better in the last 2 years?
I guess it depends on what your scale is of your rubric is communication, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to say, this is not the first takeover. When a takeover is happening, especially the one here in Houston, there was a lot of tension leading up to it. And so all the good research tells us, hey, you have to communicate. You have to be transparent with the community. You have to go out and make sure that the community understands what you're doing and why you're doing it. And I think that the district has lacked basic communication skills. The district has information for every parent and guardian of, almost 200,000 students. And I'm just dumbfounded that the district hasn't been able to communicate a little bit more effectively when they have emails and phone numbers and addresses for every parent in HISD.
And this is the first time that there has been a state takeover of a district of this size, and the first time of HISD. There have been other takeovers in other districts across the state. And here's what happens, right? During the state takeover, there is a state board of managers that will evaluate what the state appointed superintendent is doing, how that person is doing in that job. And we do know that this was a positive evaluation for Superintendent Mike Miles because he did receive a bonus of $173,000, bringing his total compensation to over $600,000. But Liz, what are your thoughts on that the state board of managers gave a positive review to Superintendent Miles?
typically on a school board, you would see a community member from each division,
Mm-hmm.
Division 1, 2, like that covers every neighborhood of Houston. I feel very strongly that there's probably not a single one of the people sitting on that board are from my community, which is northeast side of town. So it's frustrating to not have a full picture and a full representation of Houston for the people who are deciding, what's good for all of our students, what's good for all of our kids, and if the superintendent is doing a good job for all of them based on testing scores alone.
I think that's a super valid concern that Liz brings up. I'm from the southeast side of Houston. I know that there was one board of managers that was from my general area, but in June of 2025, the state said, hey, we're going to remove 4 of the board of managers, and he was one of them. I think the Houston Chronicle did some digging, and they figured out that the 4 board of managers that were removed from their position were the 4 that were asking the most questions to the administration. And it was a significant amount of more questions, which I think that's the role of a board of managers. And so it is concerning that the representation on the board of managers does not represent the population of Houston.
Oh, definitely a valid concern. I want to end things here with a look ahead. Okay. Dani, you used to be a bilingual elementary school teacher in the district. And Liz, you're such an involved and active parent. So let's start with you on this one. What is one piece of advice that you have for Houston parents or community members for the rest of the school year?
I would say talk to your kids about what their school day looks like. Check their worksheet packets. You'll find errors. You'll see that it's AI generated. Pay attention to what's happening at your kid's school. Ask hard questions. Go to school board meetings. Email your, elected representation. Pay attention. There's a lot going on and a lot slips under the radar. But if all of us are in unison, working together to do what's best for all of our kids, we can hopefully get what we feel our students deserve and need.
Dani, how about you?
For parents, I would say if you're concerned about your school becoming NES or if it is NES, go support your principal because that's something that you can do and make direct change in. Like Liz, is an involved parent. Being involved really matters especially when it's your kids, and to close the achievement gap. And in terms of in general to community members, one of the things that I keep on hearing, because there are elections for the trustee positions, the elected trustee positions are up in November. And one of the things I keep on hearing is, hey, we're going to end the takeover if we win our elections. And it's not possible for an elected trustee to end the takeover. I don't think that anybody that is on the elected board right now is happy that there's a takeover. But just be on the lookout for things that don't sound right, because there are some miscommunications out there as well.
Thank you all both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was Dani Hernandez, elected chair of the Houston ISD Board of Education, along with Liz Silva, an HISD parent. Learn more about today's episode with the links in our show notes. Before we go, help us continue making shows like today by becoming a CityCast Houston neighbor for just $10 a month. When you become a neighbor, you get some really cool perks like ad-free listening, and we'll shout out your favorite local business or charity to thousands of Houstonians who subscribe to the podcast and newsletter, which, by the way, if you haven't subscribed to Hey Houston, do that right now. Also, share this episode with 3 friends who have children in HISD, and be sure to tune in all week long for more Education Week content. Thanks. That will do it for today. I'm Raheel Ramzanali. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new.